In moments, he was deep in a stand of old-growth greel trees well outside the security perimeter, when he sensed something that stopped him in mid-stride. Motionless, he drew inward in an effort to verify what he'd felt. A Force user? A Jedi spy? He wondered. They had tried repeatedly to penetrate Sojourn's defenses during previous gatherings, but unless one had arrived in a ship designed and built by Darth Tenebrous, there would have been no way to reach the surface undetected, and yet someone had obviously succeeded in making it downside. Lifting his hand from the hilt of the lightsaber, Damask minimized his presence in the Force, surrendering his immanence and disappearing into the material world. Then he began to move deeper into the forest, winding his way through the trees, allowing the Jedi to stalk him even as he berated himself for having acted rashly. If it came to ambush, he would not be able to fight back and risk exposing himself as a Sith. He should have allowed the Sun Guards to deal with the intruder. But why would a Jedi bother to trip the perimeter sensors only to retreat beyond their reach? They didn't make mistakes of that sort. And surely whoever was out there wouldn't have expected a Mune to respond if for no other reason than Munes didn't make mistakes of that sort. So what was this one after? Ahead, Damask heard the characteristic hiss and hum of a lightsaber and saw the weapon's blade glowing in the mist. Emerging from behind a thick-boled tree, the wielder had the lightsaber in his right hand, angled toward the spongy ground. A crimson blade in a crimson wood. Instantly, he called his own lightsaber to his left hand, igniting the blade as the figure in the mist revealed itself fully. A tall, thin, pink-skinned craniopod with large, lidless eyes. A Bith? Tenebrous? He faltered momentarily. No, that wasn't possible. But who then? Tenebrous's offspring, perhaps? Some spawn grown from his genetic material in a laboratory? Since the species reproduced only in accordance with the dictates of a computer mating service. Was that why Tenebrous had declined to discuss midichlorians or ways of extending life? Because he had already found a way to create a Force-sensitive successor? I knew I could draw you out, Darth Plagueis, the Bith said. Plagueis dropped all pretense and faced him squarely. You're well-trained. I sensed the Force in you, but not the dark side. I've Darth Tenebrous to thank for it. He made you in his image. You're a product of Bith science. The Bith laughed harshly. You're an old fool. He found and trained me. Plagueis recalled the warning Tenebrous had nearly given voice to before he died. He took you as an apprentice? I am Darth Venemus. Darth? Plagueis said with disgust. We'll see about that. Your death will legitimize the title, Plagueis. Plagueis cocked his head to the side. Your master left orders for you to kill me. The Bith nodded. Even now, he awaits my return. Awaits, Plagueis said. As astonishing as it was to learn that Tenebrous had trained a second apprentice, he had a surprise in store for Venemus. Inhaling, he said, Tenebrous is dead. Confusion showed in Venemus's eyes. You wish it were so. Plagueis held his lightsaber off to one side, parallel to the ground. What's more, he died by my hand. Impossible. Plagueis laughed with purpose. How powerful can you be if you fail to sense the death of your master? Even now, your thoughts fly in all directions. Venemus raised his lightsaber over one shoulder. In killing you, I will avenge his death and become the Sith Lord he knew you could never be. The Sith he wanted me to be, Plagueis corrected. But enough of this. You've come a long way to challenge me. Now make a worthy effort. Venemus charged. To Plagueis, lightsaber duels were tedious affairs, full of wasted emotion and needless acrobatics. Tenebrous, however, who had pronounced Plagueis a master of the art, had always enjoyed a good fight, and had clearly bequeathed that enthusiasm to his other trainee. For no sooner had the blades of their weapons clashed than Venomous began to bring the fight to him in unexpected ways, twirling his surprisingly limber body, tossing the lightsaber from hand to hand, mixing forms. At one point, he leapt onto an overhanging real branch and, when Plagueis severed it with a force blow, hung suspended in the air, no mean feat in itself, and continued the fight as if from high ground. Worse for Plagueis, Tenebrous had made Venomous an expert in Plagueis' style, and so the Bith could not only anticipate, but counter Plagueis' every move. In short order, Venomous penetrated his defenses, searing the side of Plagueis' neck. The contest took them backward and forward through the trees, across narrow streams, and up onto piles of rocks that were the ruins of an ancient sentry post. Plagueis took a moment to wonder if anyone at the fort was observing the results of the contest, which from afar must have looked like lightning flashing through the forest's understory. Realizing that the fight could go on indefinitely, he took himself out of his body and began working his material self like a marionette, no longer on the offensive, instigating attacks, but merely responding to Venomous's lunges and strikes. Gradually, the Bith understood that something had changed, that what up until then had been a fight to the death seemed suddenly like a training exercise. Exasperated, he doubled his efforts, fighting harder, more desperately, putting more power into each maneuver and blow, and in the end, surrendering his precision and accuracy. At the height of Venomous's attack, Plagueis came back into himself with such fury that his lightsaber became a blinding rod. A two-handed upward swing launched from between his legs caught Venomous off guard. The blade didn't go deep enough to puncture the Bith's lung, but scorched him from chest to chin. As his large, cleft head snapped backward in retreat, Plagueis brought his lightsaber straight down, tearing Venomous's weapon from his gloved hand and nearly taking off his long fingers as well. With a gesture of his other hand, Venomous called for his lightsaber, but Plagueis was a split second quicker, and the hilt shot into his own right hand. Sensing a storm of force lightning building in the Bith, he crossed the two crimson blades in front of him and said, "Yield." Venomous froze, allowing the nascent storm to die away, and dropped to his knees in surrender as Sojourn's risen primary blazed at his back through the trees. "I submit, Darth Plagueis. I accept that I must apprentice myself to you." Plagueis deactivated Venomous's blade and hooked it to his belt. "You presume too much, Venomous. Around you, I would always have to watch my back." Venomous lifted his face. "Is it true, Master? Is Darth Tenebrous dead?" "Dead, and deservedly so." He took a step toward Venomous. "The future of the Sith no longer hinges on physical prowess, but on political cunning. The new Sith will rule less by brute force than by means of instilling fear." "And what is to become of me, Master?" Venomous asked. Plagueis studied him stonily. After a quick glance around, he snapped a yellow horn-shaped blossom from a dangling vine and tossed it to the ground in front of Venomous. "Consume it." Venomous's gaze went from the flower to Plagueis, and he let misgiving show on his face. "I know this plant. It will poison me." "It will," Plagueis told him in a manner that held no sympathy. "But I will make certain you don't die."